Wash hands first. Of course, you know, whether or not this part of the visit is happening is totally up to the person, right? If she wants to do this today, if she's curious about position. I hardly ever experience someone saying no thank you, but once in a while people do. So it's just if she wants to, and you know, we've learned in the class already kind of like the whys, so today is the how. So I always still ask, I mean, maybe I've asked 5 minutes ago, but just, can I touch your belly? And if your hands are cold, you always apologize. I'm sorry. The pregnant bellies are always so warm though, they warm right up. I always start by saying hi to the baby. Even the little tiny, you know, 9 and 10 week babies that we'll be listening to, like, hi baby, what's happening there? Got a whole crowd that wants to feel you. It's so special. Oh, hi. Yes. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So the textbooks have the Leopold's maneuvers, which you've studied, right? And honestly, I couldn't even tell you what they are in what order, but it's essentially, I mean, we all do the same thing, right? So hands on the belly. I usually start in the fundus. I mean, I guess you could start below and start by what's down there. I feel like that's, you know, a more intimate thing, so I kind of save that. So just using your fingers like we kind of talked about. And again, if you're new to this, or even if you're not, just get information. You don't need to like have this grand idea of what's even happening, right? You're just feeling. And maybe, of course, talking to the mom and saying, where have you been feeling kicks or movement? What's been going on?
Baby has been kicking over here.
Yeah.
And a little bit into my rib now the past couple days. Yeah.
So you're feeling for small knobby parts, and this baby is very active at the moment, so those parts are moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess start in the fundus, feel where there are small things happening, and usually on the opposite side of the small things happening will be the large thing happening. Assuming the baby's head down, or even if it was head up, there would be a larger part opposite where she's feeling movement. And then when you're feeling that large part, kind of see what that does when you touch it. And then see if your hands can follow it down.
So that's like going down maybe the back.
Yeah, so that's what we'd assume, right? And you want to get the baby just behind you. I mean, just so people maybe have like a visual, yeah, that would be helpful. So let's say this is, okay, so we're kind of guessing, I won't lie. As you're feeling, you're kind of like, I try not to say anything, just mostly so you don't look dumb if you're just completely wrong, which you will be, and you know, and you don't need to make any like grand predictions, right? Because you still want to listen and kind of put your clues together. And some women super care about what you would say position-wise, and others really couldn't care less what you say, right? It doesn't matter. But we had some question about Leah's baby up till a week ago.
Yeah.
It was feeling very breech, and so we were trying hard. And now it feels just like all of your other babies have always felt.
Yeah.
Head down. So in my brain, right, I'm kind of assuming this kind of thing, but no need to say. Another skill is just observing the shape of her belly, right? And you might do that before you even put your hands on, kind of as you're chatting, you know, and maybe only I can see it, but when you get your turn, just take a minute to see what you see and see if it means anything to you. You can also observe little contractions, especially when someone is past their due date, as Leah is, and kind of where there's firm spots and like dips. So like here, there's no baby, it's just your body. For more advanced students, you're also kind of assessing fluid at the same time. and we could talk more about that, I don't know, at some point. And maybe also size of the baby, just for fun. So there's like a lot of other assessment going in if the person is patient and whatever. Another sort of technique is, so I felt, and this way is a good way to view too. Sorry for turning my back to everyone. So this is another cool way to feel. So you've already felt, but we're assuming this is probably a butt, right? So you can even close your eyes and just follow it down both sides. And that's probably a shoulder, this protrusion over here. And then if the person's okay with that, are you okay if I kind of like feel in there? And the way her knees are up is really helpful if you're going to try to feel the head, assuming there's a head down there, not a butt. And then you're gonna kind of press in, and I can get both sides of the head. And sometimes the mamas even like to feel that because it's really hard to feel a head in your own body. So sometimes to have someone like kind of hold it and then, oh yeah, that's the head, okay. So you can feel the top of the head on both sides. If you're more of an advanced student, you can kind of like feel how much of the head is into the pelvis. So with that assessment, Gail Hart calls it 5/5. So you'd find the pubic bone and kind of put your hand here. And how many fingers of the head do you feel into the pubic bone? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right. It doesn't necessarily matter, but if it's a first time mom, it's maybe more interesting, you know? And then the other skill, as you're coming down, you're feeling what's the back of the head, right? If the baby's on the right, this is the back. And then you're feeling the front, the flexed head, most likely. The head may not be flexed, and that will confuse you, but this baby is in a very nice position for everyone today. Thank you, baby. So, just for interest. Okay, so that's the feeling. So you've put together this little puzzle in your head. You're gonna grab your fetoscope and listen where you think the baby's left shoulder might be, right? As you're getting good with the fetoscope, you'll notice you do hear it in lots of places, or not lots, but maybe not directly over the left shoulder. You might hear it, who knows where, somewhere else. You may also hear cord with a fetoscope. So again, advanced skill, if it's quiet enough in the room, is to take your time listening around and notice how it sounds different. So over the left shoulder at term is going to sound really like rich and full. And if it's not that spot on this baby, because Leah's baby is due, it's going to sound more like just like a tick, kind of like they do in earlier pregnancy. Does that make sense? Also, just being due has a sound of its own. The heart has a sound of its own. And Margot mentioned that before. So maybe our dates, we don't know the dates, right? But once someone hits about 36, 37 weeks, it usually gets that full sound. And I'm always like, oh, that's the sound of a full-term baby. So, mind if I listen? So I've got my watch, and I'll talk about counting in just a minute, but let's see. So you'll hear it lots of places. So I usually say to someone, I'm gonna listen around. That way they don't think I'm like not finding it or something. Like I found it. Yeah, it's there. We just want to see where else we hear it. So I'll let everyone else hear. I mean, it sounds pretty full right there. Last week, for whatever reason, we were hearing it kind of up here, but yeah, we reasoned the baby was just kind of like up higher at that moment and whatever. But it can be fun, again, if the mom is feeling patient, you know, even in an apprenticeship, even as a new midwife, to like really take your time and get that information. As far as counting, if you're brand new and you just want to find it today, just find it today. If you feel inspired to count, then there's lots of different ways to do it. I do it usually prenatally in 15-second counts and listen for a full minute at least. And again, it's not really the discussion for today, but you know, obviously listening for rate. What is the rate, the normal rate for this baby at this moment? This baby was super active a few minutes ago, probably isn't sleeping. You know, if the baby's moving, do you hear accelerations? Do you hear anything weird? Sometimes you do, and your baby, I didn't. But I'm just saying, especially earlier in pregnancy, you might hear like a skipped beat or, you know, so listen. I'm saying listen for a while. Don't just like, oh, I hear it, done. And if you don't hear it, be really honest about that. Don't ever pretend you heard it if you didn't. Really, don't do that. And listen around, because sometimes the position, etc., is confusing, even when you have experience. So what do? You listen around. You pick a point and you follow it across. And if you don't hear anything down there, then, you know, try at the umbilicus. Same thing. So again, patient women that are willing to let you take your time. A lot of these women too might be at home listening with a fetoscope and just say to you, it's right here, right? And so you don't need to do that. Any questions about the feeling or the counting or the listening?